for the Susan Taylor Podcast, where we discuss the yoga of mind, medicine, and healing. Author of Feeling Good Matters, Sexual Radiance, and the Vital Energy Program, Dr. Taylor imparts authentic knowledge and practical tools that inspire, educate, and empower us to be a healing force for positive change. So join us and take your life and our planet to the next level.
Hello and welcome to Podcast 51. Worried about cholesterol? A look at some dietary fat concerns. Recently, I've received comments about cholesterol and/or statins, and today I'd like to answer most of those questions that people seem to have that may clear up some of their concerns. In today's episode, I'll talk about, does cholesterol you eat really matter? Is cholesterol bad, or is it the inflammation that matters? And what are the side effects of statins if you do decide to take them? What have people experienced? So let's get started. Does the cholesterol that you get recorded when you go into your physician's office or practitioner's office, does it really matter? And does it matter in what you're eating, or is it a reflection of what you're eating, or is it something that's happening endogenously within the system itself? Because only about 20% of the cholesterol in your bloodstream, and that's what they check when you get your blood drawn, comes from the food that you eat. Your body actually makes the rest. Cholesterol has a bad reputation, in promoting heart disease, and it's really stated that excess cholesterol in the bloodstream is the key contributor to artery clogging plaque, which then can accumulate and really set the stage for a heart attack. Wow, that's enough to scare anyone. So I did some research on the topic. First, I'd like to say that cholesterol is vital to your health and well-being, and people have said that before. There's some people advocating to eat healthy fats in the diet, and cholesterol included in that. Although it's measured in the blood, it's found in every cell in the body. In fact, cholesterol is a building block in cell membranes, and it's also used to make vitamin D and hormones like testosterone and estrogen. So cutting cholesterol, I'm not quite sure that that's the answer. It also is a building block for the fat-dissolving bile acids. In fact, cholesterol production is so important that your liver and intestines make about 80% of the cholesterol you need to stay healthy. Only about, as I mentioned, 20% comes from the foods that you eat. So does it matter how much you eat? Well, there's controversial debates on this matter. It's something where you have to really access the overall condition of the person in question. And lifestyle is the key, especially where we are in our life's journey. If we're young, if we're still very young in youth, 20s, or if we're midlife, or even if we're after, midlife, we're in our elder years, all of that's really going to make a difference in how we create the lifestyle to support wherever we are. And so we're talking about cholesterol here. So if you eat, let's go back to that. If you eat only 200 to 300 milligrams of cholesterol a day, that's considered like one egg yolk. One egg yolk is 200 milligrams. Your liver will produce an additional 800 milligrams per day from raw materials such as fat, sugars, and proteins. That just gives you an idea of the different levels of how much is made endogenously within the liver and intestines and how much we take in the diet. Since cholesterol is a fat, it can't travel alone in the bloodstream. And that's the whole system of really what I want to get to here. It would end up as useless globs of just, globs of stuff floating around, almost like you have chicken fat floating in a pot of water. That's what it would look like. So to get around this problem, the body, which is the genius of everything, actually packages cholesterol and other lipids into little protein-covered particles that mix easily with the blood. And these tiny particles are called the lipoproteins. It's a lipid, which is a fat, plus a protein. And that helps move cholesterol and other fats through the body. And I feel like I need to say that because we just think of this cholesterol as the big, bad, and ugly. But no, the whole body has a whole system and works synergistically to really move things in and out and utilize them. Nothing is really bad. It's when we're out of balance that we create the problems. So cholesterol and other lipids circulate in the bloodstream in different forms. Of these, one that gets the most attention is the low-density lipoprotein, better known as the LDL, or bad cholesterol. Nothing's bad, by the way. But lipoproteins come in a range of shapes and sizes, and each type has its own task. And then they morph from one form into another. And there are about 5 main types. We won't get into that in this session or an episode because it's more biochemistry, but if anybody wants to know, you can just email me and I'll talk to you about that. But we do have these chylomicrons, which are the large particles that carry these triglycerides, which are the fatty acids from your food. And they're made in the digestive system, and they're influenced by what you eat, as I mentioned. So we even have, nobody talks about it, the very low-density lipoproteins, and they also help carry triglycerides to tissue. So they're made in the liver also. So let's take a look at this LDL because that's what everybody's measuring. They're even richer in pure cholesterol since most of the triglycerides they carried are gone. LDL is known as the bad cholesterol. Why? Because it delivers cholesterol to the tissues and it's strongly associated with the buildup of artery clogging plaque. High-density lipoprotein, or HDL, remember everybody wants HDL high, above 60. And those particles are good cholesterol because they remove cholesterol from the circulation, from the artery walls, and they return it to the liver for excretion. So it works quite nicely. And there was a review done, and I'd like to share that with you. A review done about inflammation, not the cholesterol, is the cause of the chronic disease. And that was in the Journal of Nutrients in 2018. And the abstract was very, very interesting because it demonstrated that the study actually demonstrated that the key to longevity and prevention of chronic disease development is not the reduction of dietary or serum cholesterol, but the control of systemic inflammation. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking about inflammation and some spices and herbs that we can use for that. But the next 2 sessions of podcasts, I'll talk about this cholesterol. So then we'll move into the inflammation. And as I said, I'll cover that in about 2 weeks. But in the review, they actually presented all the relevant data that supports the view that it's the inflammation induced by several factors. And there's several biochemical factors that really cause this buildup of plaque and the problem with heart disease. But let's turn to some practical numbers and see what cholesterol is really all about. Keep in mind that cholesterol has been redefined. So when they've had certain levels okay and now they're not, and it's always back and forth. If your cholesterol is anywhere between the normal charts, and what they say is 77 to 387 milligrams per deciliter, you may like to stop worrying because according to clinical values, blood cholesterol test doesn't actually measure LDL. Did you know? I didn't know that before I did the research. That thing called bad cholesterol, it's not even cholesterol, it's a low-density lipoprotein, and it carries the cholesterol. But be aware that even the total cholesterol, which they do measure, is only known to be, it could be an error, up to 19% I've seen. So if you actually have high cholesterol, or your cholesterol is high for you relative to what you know your normal is, it's not a made-up normal, it's what your normal is. Remember, your body makes cholesterol for good reason. And consider the following. Are you injured? Are you stressed? Are you pregnant? Recovering from an operation, an illness? Any of these will encourage your body to make more cholesterol. You notice I actually spoke about the stress word there. I think stress is the real killer of anyone, because we really have to learn to relax and we have to take time during the day to really put a brake on the stress levels. Change that, get off the treadmill, basically, get off the wheel. Stress is a whole subject of everything. It's actually the root of many diseases, if not all. Have you ever had a cholesterol test taken at the end of winter, for example? In the heart of winter, vitamin D is made by sunlight, synthesizing cholesterol on the skin. But when you expose your skin to, and that's only when you expose your skin to sunlight. So have you tested your cholesterol in the heart of winter, which vitamin D or sunlight is limited? It depends where you live. Well, your cholesterol is going to be maybe high right now because you haven't turned it into vitamin D yet, or low. All of these factors really come into concern when we're talking about cholesterol. I would tell people, have another test at the end of the summer and make sure you give your body the chance to make some vitamin D with healthy sun exposure. Not too much, not burning. So all of this has an effect. If you know or think that you have familiar hypercholesterolemia, that means a high cholesterol based on a genetic predisposition to it, take a look at that. That makes a difference too. High LDL can be a symptom, not a problem. The problem can be the exact opposite of what is assumed. LDL is not getting into the cells, and including the heart cells where it's vitally needed. So keep those things in mind. And now I'd like to turn to statins. People talk about statins and whether they should take them or not, the good, the bad, the ugly. Let me just give you some facts. Everyone could make the decision. Are statins bad? Are they bad? Are they good? I mean, maybe they're good and maybe they're bad. But we could all, if we get on that bandwagon that everything is bad, then we don't really make the proper decisions for ourselves. But let's look at them and really look at some of the facts that I've pulled up, and then you can weigh it for yourself. If you're in the highest risk group possible, men of certain ages who have had a heart attack, or we don't know. But for every 100 of these men that were given statins for 5 years, only 1.8 men will live on average an extra 6 months. And 92 or 98% will gain no benefit. That's what some of the research shows. So the intelligent thinking in the world of cholesterol is that any benefit of statins might be very small, but in a very high risk group even results in the anti-inflammatory properties of statins. And they do have anti-inflammatory properties. And the cholesterol reduction is being serious and not with the unwelcome side effects. So there are unwelcome side effects. So the question is, do you really want to consider taking them? I would tell people, please look into the research, ask your healthcare provider, what are the statistics that show the benefit, and do they outweigh the side effects? If we look at it another way, in September 2015, research showed that you can take statins for years and you might gain an extra 3 days. Again, likely an anti-inflammatory effect, the cholesterol lowering being a serious price to pay. So you're paying a serious price to lower your cholesterol, and maybe it might be better to work with the anti-inflammatory effects of diet, herbs, spices, and stress reduction. That's a question that only you can answer. So when we take, talking of the side effects, they're substantially really understated, and those who mention statin side effects are usually attacked when it comes into medicine. So I'm not really going to talk about them. I'll just speak about them from the perspective of what's reported. I'm not taking either side on what it is or what it's not and how it's working. I can say, though, that the patient leaflet for Lipitor, which is the most lucrative statin in the pharmaceutical industry, it's the most lucrative drug ever in the history of mankind. It's quite up there because there's a lot of use. The common side effects may affect up to 1 in 10 people. That's the way it's reported, and it may include inflammation of the nasal passage, pain in the throat, nosebleeds, allergic reaction. It also could increase blood sugar levels. So if you have diabetes, continue careful monitoring of your blood sugar levels because it does increase blood creatinine kinase. You also get headaches, nausea, constipation, indigestion, diarrhea, many digestive disturbances, joint pain, muscle pain, back pain. Blood tests that show you your liver function has become abnormal. So these are the side effects that have been reported. They're not made up. Some people say if you read the side effects, you're going to have that almost like the placebo effect of having the side effect. And I could see that happen. However, if you are on statins and you do have certain symptoms, I would definitely report them. And if you don't have it and it's really benefiting you and you're feeling great, then again, proceed with caution, but be aware that it might be helping. And they also say on the leaflet, by the way, I found over the age of 70, you have to proceed with caution. And I'm not sure if many healthcare providers who write scripts are really aware of this. So if you're wondering about whether or not you should be on a statin and you're over the age of 70 or approaching this age, I would pay attention to that. And, is high cholesterol really going to take your life? So what we want to do then in proceeding and moving forward is we look at cholesterol in summary. Cholesterol is found 20% in the foods that we eat, but it's also 80% produced endogenously. And when we get our cholesterol checked, it's really not, it's more of a guesstimate, and it depends on a lot of things, whether we're in injury, stress, what time of life we're in, whether we're exercising, whether we're not. All of these have a significant influence. And are statins good to take? Well, I think that if you're on statins and you're feeling good, just keep yourself monitored. If you're suggesting that maybe you should take them to lower your cholesterol, perhaps you can do a little bit more research before making that decision. So always do your research. And any questions or comments, let me know. And that brings me to the end of this episode. Contact us at susantaylor.org if you have any questions, comments, or even some feedback. And I'd like to thank you for listening. The podcast does come out every week. Contact us anytime. As I said, next week I'll be doing something else on cholesterol, followed by inflammation, and that should really tie up all the questions that came in currently on cholesterol, inflammation, and where we're going with that. And until next time, remain calm, consciously aware, living in the moment.